We go into harvesting and post-harvest handling. Contamination of produce can occur during harvesting and post-harvesting. Sources of contamination: soil, water, animal feces, workers, equipment, harvest containers, transport vehicles that we move the produce in can be a source of contamination. Workers harvesting should practice good hygiene and sanitation. Equipment and tools should be clean and sanitized. Harvest containers should be clean and sanitized to ensure they're not bringing any microorganisms into the field or into the packet or storing house. Harvest containers should not be used to store anything else but non-produce items. Some people might use it to store chemicals, some people use it to store fertilizers. We want to store nothing else but produce in those containers. We don't want to induce a risk of contamination. Do not allow produce to come in contact with the ground. You have to be very careful with that because depending on the nature of the area, it can be a source of contamination. Keep that in mind. Excess soil or debris should be removed as possible from the produce in the field. You don't want to introduce any contamination into your sorted grading area, storage area, or packing area. So you try to remove as much soil as possible to reduce that contamination risk. Water used during the harvesting should be of good quality water, should not be contaminated. More, it should be potable water. You want to ensure, again, we want clean water, non-contaminated water, meaning contact with the produce. Again, as we said earlier, provide sanitary facilities and wash stations for workers. It's very critical when you're harvesting produce. You don't have a worker who will relieve themselves and then come back in the field and pick any produce and continue like normal. You have to ensure that they're able to wash their hands and use sanitary facilities. You don't want to be using some part of the field where you might have a problem with runoff. So whatever they do up there runs back into the field. Very important to have sanitary facilities and wash stations. Again, before harvesting, review and go over with your workers food safety expectations. When you go to the field, have a meeting, well, sometimes we call it a toolbox meeting, where you sit down with your farm workers every morning, or anyone, and you have a discussion about today's activities, what is expected, what is not expected, what we need to do, what we need to cover, what needs to be recorded. We have those meetings so we have people being aware and being kept in mind, reinforcing things we need, practices we need to continue with. Vehicles transporting produce from the field to the storehouse, to the package house, sorting and grade house, that has to be clean also. Because we do know that we use vehicles to transport equipment, chemicals, all other kind of things. But if we use it to transport produce, we want to ensure that vehicle is clean and sanitized. Reduce that risk of contamination. Post-harvest handling. Any facilities where you conduct your post-harvest facility handling, operations should be clean and sanitized. Should be able to exclude animals, birds, insects. You don't want anything coming into that particular facility and contaminate your produce. You don't want flies coming around. If you have livestock around the farm, flies landing on feces, coming landing on produce, source of contamination. So you want to exclude insects, you want to exclude animals, birds from that. Good quality water should be used again to wash produce. Contact surfaces where the produce come in contact with should be clean and sanitized at all times. You don't want to again introduce the produce into a contaminated area. Workers again within these facilities should practice good hygiene and sanitation. If you work in the facility, if you leave from handling that produce, you must ensure you wash your hands before you come back and deal with that produce. Hygiene and sanitation is very important. Again, wash stations and facilities should be available for workers and maintaining clean conditions. Bathroom facilities should always be clean. Wash stations should also be clean because you might have a wash station or sink you wash and you look, that sink is real dirty. Everything must be clean and sanitized because we don't want to induce or create an environment of contamination for the produce or for workers to come in contact with to introduce into the produce. Sanitizing and cleaning programs should be established for those areas. You must have a regular cleaning and sanitizing program for those facilities. It must be documented so you know that when we come, you assess that. You can say, well, listen, today is Friday. Oh, let me see who cleaned the facilities or was it clean? So you can ensure that, make sure that you're on top of your sanitary hygienic practices. Signage again should be used to reinforce these things. There's signs around the facilities so workers would read it, see it every day. And remember, hey, we need to practice these things. There's a reason why we need to do these things. Record should be kept of all harvesting and post-harvest activities. Very important. Because again, anything happening in the field during harvesting, you'll be able to record. You want to know which field was harvested, type of crop harvested, workers who work in the field who harvested it, who transported it from the field to the storage facilities or the sorting and grading facilities, right? Were there any incidents that happened during harvesting? All these things you need to keep in mind. With any of the produce damage, all that you need to keep in mind. Same thing for post-harvesting. You need to keep track of that. You need to keep track of these things during post-harvest handling and harvesting handling. Very important. Because, like I said, at the end of the day when you harvest produce and you do your post-harvest handling, it's all about safe food and quality produce. That's the key thing. Safe food and quality produce you have to look at. Storage facilities, post-harvest handling. Again, the storage facilities is supposed to be designed properly to allow for easy cleaning and sanitizing. If you have storage facilities, the floor should be of that such that you'll be able to wash, clean, mop. Surface area is supposed to be able to be washed and sanitized. Birds, animals, and insects again should be excluded from these facilities. Again, this could be a source of contamination. Containers and pallets used in the storage facilities should be kept clean and sanitized. If they're not clean and sanitized, they should not be using it. They should not be in these facilities. They should not be stored in there. Produce is supposed to be stored separately and not with any agrochemicals or tools. So if you have a storage room, you have your produce on one end and you have your tools, the chemicals, see if you could actually find an additional room to store it in, or probably look at partitioning the room, seal it properly so you can actually separate. Transportation, as I said before, in post-harvest handling. Clean and sanitized vehicles used to transport produce because that could be a source of contamination. You don't want the produce leaving from your farm, going to the supply chain, and it's contaminated along the line because it presents problems. Produce should be loaded in a manner that minimizes damage. When loading produce, workers should be cognizant of how they load the produce. Don't just pack the tray, drop it down, take your time and pack it properly. Don't want to increase damage because any produce is damaged, means that's a loss to you. It is a reduced quality in that produce. So they want to ensure that you're selling quality produce to the supplier. When transporting produce on an open bar vehicle, ensure that it's covered to protect from elements, protect from any contamination, dust in the air, wind, microbes, anything. You want to cover it and protect it from the elements on open bar vehicles. The workers transporting the produce, again, should practice good hygiene. They're supposed to be clean, attired. Again, wash their hands if they're doing anything else besides handling produce. Those kind of processes should be maintained. Records of the produce being delivered to the supplier. You should be able to track what left the farm or what went to the supplier. So in terms of which field that particular crop came from, you got that track. You could probably assign a batch number or code to that particular produce going to the supplier. So if any problems occur from the supply chain, you could backtrace and say, well, listen, that produce comes from farm C. I'm able to, again, remember we talk about traceability, be able to trace from the supplier back to the farm, and that's what we're talking about. So very important, keeping records of how you move your produce off your farm to the supplier. Helps you in the long run. Helps you when it comes to get audited. Helps you to assess your practices, what you need to change or correct. Right? So, for example, you can realize that you could be transferring produce and you keep your records and you realize, listen, I wouldn't have to do something about this vehicle because by the time the produce leaves the farm, it's good quality, but by the time it's in traffic, that vehicle, the heat, you might need to get a refrigerated vehicle. So it helps you to assess things you might need to do, need to change to improve the quality of your produce, to improve your practices. So record keeping is very important in this sense. This brings me to conclusion. Again, good agricultural practices can be used as a management tool, help to reduce the risk of microbial contamination, improve produce quality and ensure food safety, improve farm production practices, sustainably manage soil and crop productivity, and reduce environmental impact. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.